That's right, I am not buying Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, why is that? Number one, I'm not a Pokemon fan. I have never played a Pokemon game. And the thing is that I have always wanted to. This game looks appealing to me in some ways, as all Pokemon games have. Back in 2017, when I picked up my Nintendo Switch, I was really curious about why everyone was so excited about Pokemon. I grew up with Nintendo, but I never grew up with Pokemon. I grew up with Mario, and that was pretty much it. I didn't get into all these other franchises until the Nintendo Switch came around. So then Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, and I was actually kind of interested in that game, but I didn't buy it because I saw the weird control method of just one Joy-Con, and I thought it was kind of weird, and people were hating on it online, so I just decided I'll wait till the mainline game comes out. I'll wait to get my first Pokemon experience from a real Pokemon game. Well, fast forward to Pokemon Sword and Shield. Those games were so hated. They were so controversial, and absolutely nobody was talking positively about those games. And so I was thinking to myself, why would I want to get into this game? Why would I want to get into the game that everyone hates with their entire being? I skipped Sword and Shield because people were hating on those games. Fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. Every single other Pokemon game that came out on the Nintendo Switch had controversy. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl had controversy. Legends Arceus or Arceus, that game was so well received by so many people, and yet a lot of people were still hating on it, and the graphics didn't look very good. And I have continued to hold the opinion that Pokemon and the Pokemon Company just don't seem to be putting in any effort into these first-party games. They look pretty bad, and I am not a huge graphics guy. I'm a Nintendo guy. Obviously, I'm not the biggest graphics guy in the world, but what I do appreciate is polish. I appreciate the nuanced developers being able to take time to truly polish their game, to make every aspect, every pixel look the exact way they intend it to look, even if the hardware has limitations like the Nintendo Switch did. The Pokemon Company and Game Freak never seem to do that. Game Freak never seems to do that. All their games that release, Scarlet and Violet was another one. That was a huge stink, a huge debacle, and an otherwise pretty great year for the Nintendo Switch. Those games were abysmal. They looked awful, and yet people said that they were incredibly fun. I heard a lot of YouTubers talking about how that was some of the best gameplay in the series, and Arceus, Legends Arceus, that game had a lot of great gameplay and cool mechanics that added to the series as well. And yet I didn't buy either of those, and I know a lot of people that didn't as well because the games looked horrible and the bugs were unacceptable. All of these different things that the Pokemon Company has not been fixing continue to show up in their games. Now here we are with Pokemon's Legends ZA, and I had hope. I had hope that the Switch 2 edition of this game would look a lot better, run a lot better, feel a lot better, and yet what I have seen so far is the opposite. I have seen bugs and bugs and bugs. I have seen the players falling through the map. I have seen players getting stuck in corners that the game clearly wants you to go in to collect things. I have seen very poor development choices here. I have seen a lack of care and a lack of love and what feels very greedy to me. That is my opinion on Legends ZA. So that is why I'm not buying the game. That is why you probably clicked on this video. But what is my point with this to begin with? Well, I am frustrated. I'm so frustrated with Pokemon. And I know negativity sells right now, and I'm not necessarily trying to buy in on that hype. I'm just trying to share my personal opinions about things that are happening right now. What is happening right now? People are talking about Pokemon Legends ZA, and that is a big controversy. So here I am. Legends ZA looks like it has a lot of great aspects to it. All of the other Pokemon games prior focused a lot more on the turn-based strategy and also having a little bit of world exploration, starting with Sword and Shield and that free area, that wild area. They moved that more into Legends Arceus, and people were so excited for that game. Its open scope, its scale, and then people being able to run around mid-battle and not be stuck on a loading screen or on a screen in which you can only select things from a menu. The focus of this game seems to be a lot more on battles, which is really cool. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. The battles have always been the cool thing to me. I love the idea of taking these crazy monster creatures and using them to fight one another to get where I'm trying to go. And honestly, another thing about this game that I think looks really good are the character models. These characters interacting with one another, the animations, the expressions, they look really good. But another issue here is the voice acting, which I am not a huge proponent of. Like, I'm not going to be incredibly upset if you do or don't have voice acting. Not every game needs to have voice acting to be considered good or quality, and yet Pokemon and all of the hate it has been getting, voice acting is up there, and to be honest with you, some of these cutscenes are very uncomfortable. This one that has been floating around all over the place was from, I believe, Sword and Shield, and this dude is up there singing, and yet it's dead silent. There's no speaking, there's no nothing. It's just a little bit of crowd noise, and that's it. It feels bad, and so many people have watched these cutscenes, have played these games, and said, was the audio off? Did I somehow turn this off? This doesn't seem right. And for us to have to question whether or not the audio is on or off in a Pokemon game, that's a problem, in my opinion. That's a huge problem. Now, what is the biggest problem here with Pokemon, with the Game Freak company, with the Pokemon company? Why is nothing changing? Why does it seem like we're stuck in a time loop? Well, it's the sales. To be honest with you, it is the sales. These games sell incredibly well, and Pokemon Legends ZA is going to sell just as well as all these other games, and it's not going to matter because PR is PR, negative or positive, and Pokemon continues to get negative PR and positive PR on both sides of the thing, and all of that PR pushes this game even further. It's also the biggest franchise in the world. Pokemon is bigger than literally every other thing that Disney owns, Universal, all these other huge studios, franchises, movies, all of these different things combined. None of them are bigger than Pokemon, and Pokemon doesn't need to do anything more than it's doing right now. It only has to continue with its course and continue to make games. As long as there is a formula and it's kind of different from the last one, it doesn't matter what it looks like, it doesn't matter how buggy the game is, it doesn't matter if people have so many varying opinions on these games, it simply doesn't matter. These games will sell, and the games will sell merchandise. And the merchandise will sell people on TV shows and movies, and those will sell people on anime, and those will sell people on the games. People are going to continue to buy Pokemon stuff because at this point, it's a part of culture. I don't really understand it. I don't know a ton of people personally who are into Pokemon, but I know about Pokemon Go, right? Pokemon Go was a huge phenomenon, and that would not have been the case if it wasn't Pokemon. People are just interested in Pokemon and the trading cards and everything with these little creatures. This video may seem a little bit uneducated by some aspects of it because I don't know a ton about Pokemon, never played the game, like I said. I am upfront with you on that. But the problem here mostly lies with the impact this series has and the impact the franchise has on people in very developmental years. Pokemon is generally towards children. And of course, a lot of people my age and higher, and even middle age, and going all the way up into the spectrum of ages, people love Pokemon regardless of age. But yet, this is still the target audience is kids, and people are going to continue to buy these games for their kids because they know what Pokemon is. Pokemon was huge back in the 80s, and Pokemon continues to be huge now because people were buying into it then, buying trading cards. Now what they do is buy consoles and games for their kids, and those kids will probably grow up liking Pokemon and giving it to their kids. And there's a big cycle here that continues. That's a big deal, is having these people continue to buy over and over again and trusting the brand no matter what that brand does to you. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as something that is too big to fail. I think Pokemon could come down crashing and burning if they did something wrong enough, but at some point you get a little bit of a benefit of a doubt from your consumer. Apple, for example, is the most popular phone brand out there. Like, people will buy iPhones simply because they believe that Apple means quality. They don't even consider other options, they don't consider other phones, they only buy iPhones and Apple products, and that's all they buy. At some point, maybe they'll get frustrated with Apple, and at some point, they'll decide to get something cheaper or something else that's a little bit different, and the only reason they're going to do that is if something screws them up that badly. You're going to continue in that cycle of perhaps mediocrity if you don't like Apple, or that cycle of consistency if you do like Apple, and you're just going to continue until something pushes you out of the cycle. Here, I think Pokemon has a very similar thing going for it. No one's going to stop caring about Pokemon and buying and consuming Pokemon products until there is something that is big enough to push them out. And maybe Scarlet and Violet and all the stink from the Switch generation is enough to push some people out, but I don't think it's enough. And we'll see with the sales numbers on Pokemon Legends ZA if it did push out enough people, but I really, really doubt it. I think there's going to never be enough people out there who don't buy Pokemon, right? There's always going to be people who continue to consume. Now, is that a problem? Is it a problem that, well, maybe one day they'll fail, but they're certainly not going to now, and it's going to take a heck of a lot to get them out of that cycle? Kind of, because there is somewhat of a monopoly on this type of game, but at the same time, there really isn't, is there? Pal World, for example, is kind of like a Pokemon but guns game, and people love Pal World. People really enjoyed that game. And if other companies out there decide to do some sort of Pokemon clone, Nintendo may go out of their way to try and take it down and patent all these crazy things, but at the same time, people love the idea. They love the concept. That's why stuff like Digimon is so big as well. All these different things are just the concept. It's the monsters and catching them and doing stuff with them that is really captivating to people. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, but for whatever reason, we all seem to love ourselves some little creatures, big creatures of fantastical origin. It also just sets a really, really bad precedent, because I think there are other companies out there that look at the Pokemon Company, see its success, see its cyclical success, in fact, and say, why should we put effort in? Why should I make my game any better or worse than this? Because this product is selling literally by the dozens of millions, and people continue to buy it, and people have backlash. These smart people online will continue to bash it, but then they'll go out and buy it anyways, won't they? And a lot of people do the same thing, and they don't even care what it looks like because it's just a kid's game, right? Why would you get so riled up and mad about a kid's game? It's just unfortunate for those companies and for the consumer to have these games succeed as much as they do. We're not getting the better end of this stick here. We're just not. For people who support these Pokemon games, I am glad for you. I hope you enjoy these games. I hope you do not let any of the negativity get to you, but I think even you can realize, if you are a person who truly does enjoy Pokemon, there is a problem here to some extent. These games should not look as bad as they are. They should not be as buggy as they are. They shouldn't be as easy as they are, and they shouldn't have as many problems as they do. Try to get some middle ground here for the Pokemon haters. I'm sure even you can agree that there are good aspects to this franchise. The gameplay itself is satisfying. The creatures are cool. This is a fun franchise, and people love the concept. You have to at least understand that this is a great idea, and it is being used over and over and over again because people love the idea of catching stuff and using them to fight one another over and over and over again. That's why these games continue to sell. As inexplicable as it may seem to you, this is a successful franchise. So let's come to the middle here. Here we are in the middle ground between haters and lovers. We see ourselves with Pokemon Legends ZA. There are problems and there are great parts to it. There are big things that need to be addressed, and there are also big things to be built on. Well, here's the problem with the things that need to be built on. Pokemon continues to have great ideas, great things that they never bring back. There are so many things that I have seen from other games in which YouTubers or other people that play these games will say, I think that this should come back in the next installment. This was a great feature. And then they don't bring it back. They decide to go back to their roots and then build something new based on that and leave those other quality of life features behind. That's a big deal, and it's a problem. And for the haters, Pokemon definitely is trying to improve in one way or another. I really think this game looks ugly. That is my opinion of this game. But I think they actually have made some strides. I think they have made some improvements that they have been trying to make this game look better. The entire land that this game takes place on, the big Lumiose City, is a singular model. And I think the reason they did that, I'm not a game developer here, I could be off base, but I think the reason that they did that was to try to make things a little bit more simple. They copy and pasted windows, they copy and pasted tile textures, they did all of these different things to try to make the game as simple as possible, because they knew with complex environments that they were going to have to develop for other things, it was going to go poorly for them for one reason or another. So they tried to keep it very simple. All the big buildings in the way keep things from not having to be loaded in from far away. You can continue to have everything up close, look sharp, and then have the stuff from far away come in as you get closer to it. And I think that's a good idea. But at the same time, this is still unacceptable. It is unacceptable to say, as the biggest franchise in the world, as the highest grossing franchise in the world, to not give your developers more time. And even though on the flip side of that, I can even say with some of these leaks, I'm not going to talk a ton about them, people are getting taken down for that, but there are leaks of the next generation of Pokemon, and some of that stuff looks really, really good, and I think they're going to make something from the Switch 2 ground up, and it's going to look better. It's probably still going to have a lot of problems, but they are still striving to be a little bit better than the last one, and I think, graphically speaking, at least, they have made some big changes for the better. So then we get to the final part of this conversation. Why is it that everyone is so keen on talking and hating on Pokemon? Well, it has a lot to do with what I have already said. The biggest part of it, I think, that is very inexcusable to most people is that it's the Pokemon Company. It's the highest grossing franchise in the world, blah, 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 blah. All of those different things continue to make people so upset when they see the lack of polish, the lack of care in these games. If you are making that much money and you can't even make your game right, if you can't even make it work on release, wow. How greedy do you have to be? How awful do you have to be, do these people think? Now, on the other side of this train here, we see people who continue to defend the console, to defend these graphics, to defend everything about it. There needs to be some nuance here. There needs to be even more. But what I think I would say about this is that it's kind of the trendy thing to do. And of course, right now, in this year, with the Switch 2, hating on Nintendo is the trendy thing to do. Pokemon has always been the trendy thing to hate on, and it will continue to be the trendy thing to hate on until it just gets so unbelievably good that everyone can agree it's amazing. And even then, with stuff like Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, you're going to have haters. You're going to have people saying that those games weren't any good, and in retrospect, they actually aren't even games from their franchise. It's not even a Zelda game. Those comments can appear ridiculous to me personally, but they are still people's opinions, and I'm just going to say whatever to them. The problem here is that Pokemon is so hated. It is so hated that people are going to continue to say whatever they want, however they want, because that's another problem here. Internet culture. We have the world at our fingertips. We can say whatever we want and not get punished for it, hardly at all. We can hide behind our TV screens, our phone screens, and we can type whatever we want and post it and do anything and not have any sort of problem. And I think that is problematic. I think that is pretty poor to have people really growing up in this culture, really growing up in this society, and thinking it is okay to say what they want to say, unfiltered, just because they're hiding behind a screen. And the longer we get away from actually knowing each other personally, realizing that we are human beings interacting with one another, the farther away we're going to get from actual nuance, from actual real conversations in which debate can be had peacefully and respectfully. It's so frustrating to see people not know how to interact with other human beings about topics they enjoy, because at the end of the day, these are video games that we're talking about here. We're talking about video games. We're not talking about wars. We're not talking about politics. We're not talking about other important things that will affect each and every one of us. We're talking about video games. So be kind to someone today. Let me tell you again, be kind to someone today. Regardless of all the Nintendo hate, I will continue to be honest in my opinions. I will not go out of my way to spread hate, even though it is really kind of weighing on me to see all of these other videos do extremely well and no one care about the positive side of things. But here I am continuing to be positive because those haters are going to have their time come eventually. When things get so good, like they were with the Switch generation, it's going to look very silly to continue to hate simply just to hate. This cycle will continue its trend, and eventually people will come back around, and here I will be hopefully continuing to be honest and continuing to have opinions that are backed up with logic and nuance. And I hope you will continue to be a supporter of my channel even then. But thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Prove it by commenting down below Pokemon Legends ZA has nuance. Just comment that for me. Comment that Pokemon Legends ZA has nuance, and I will comment below and say thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, because that means you made it to the end of the video. So if you did, make sure you like this video and subscribe if you have not already. Click the notification bell to know exactly when my videos release. And if you're on mobile devices, make sure you click that hype button to help my channel out a lot. It just gets those smaller channels up to bigger eyes. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click on the left side of your screen to see my video talking about the Switch 2 having no games, and click on the right side of your screen to see my Donkey Kong Bonanza review. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Make sure you have yourself a phenomenal day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.